Hello there. Welcome, whoever you are, to another One Take Wonder clip from yours truly, Chrissy Boy. If you're looking for techniques and advice on how to teach teenagers English successfully, or more successfully, then I think you've come to the right place. The technique that I'm going to talk about today comes from, was first mentioned in, surprise, surprise, Understanding Teenagers in the ELT Classroom, the book that's displayed most prominently on the shelves behind me. If you haven't got it and you are a teenage career teacher or newish to the profession, or you have teachers who teach teenagers in your school, I can't see how you wouldn't want that book, to tell you the truth. Right, I want to tell you a little story. About 6 years ago, could be 7, could be 8 now, time is rolling inexorably on. I was teaching a class of upper intermediate students, and I had a student in there, let's call her Ariana. And Ariana was a good student. She was diligent, she was serious about her learning, she did her homework. And I could tell that, while she didn't dislike me, she wasn't that impressed. I definitely wasn't her favourite teacher. And that she just, she came to class, she listened to me rambling on, she did what I asked them, and that was it. Now, it got to around about May time, April, May time, getting towards the end of the academic year for us, because we always stop in June, end of June. And in Seville, we've got this big fair called the Feria. It's the April Fair, where people wear flamenco dresses, they go and dance sevillanas, and there's horses and there's carriages. I mean, it's a really big thing. And our centre was actually on the ring road in Triana, which was the it's the neighbourhood where they hold the April Fair, the fairground. And unsurprisingly, not many students came to class. In fact, only Ariana came to class that day. Now, I've got quite strong opinions on what we should do when only one student comes to class. And if you haven't seen the other clips, or you haven't heard me talk, basically that is, use the time to talk to our students, not to give them sort of fillers, word searches, or stuff to do, with their head down on their own. We can really use the time to have a good one-to-one class. So that's what I did. I chatted to Ariana for most of the hour and a half. That was our lesson. And I found out loads of things about her. First of all, she told me all about her technology classes, where she was working with circuits. She was using something called Arduino sets, which I didn't know anything about, and she showed me some on her mobile, and we talked about that. And then she told me all about her favourite show, a series called Glee, which I think was about an academy, a sort of theatre school. And then she told me all about the concerts that were kind of spin-offs from the series as well. And I mean, she was a true fan of the show and its various spin-offs. And I thought to myself, it's not really surprising that Ariana wasn't that impressed with me as a teacher, because actually we've come to the end of the year and I know nothing about this girl. So that prompted me to make this, which I hope you can see. It might play havoc with the autofocus on the camera, but you can see we've got circles there, clothes, music, food, leisure. Going over, we've got siblings, parents, jobs, family elsewhere, house elsewhere, etc. I think you can see it all. I don't need to talk right round it, do I? And you can see for this video, I've printed it on this rather nice lime card for display purposes. You could do that if you wanted. So what is this? This is not for your students. It's not to give to your students. It's not to get them to fill out. The idea of this, and this is how I've used it, is it's for you. We have one of these for each student, probably printed on recycled paper or paper that's been, used already on one side, because the students are not going to see this. This is not for them. The idea is that each lesson, we might just try to talk to our students about maybe, who's got, family living elsewhere. And at the end of the lesson, we just scribble down a few notes in the circles. Each student, we prepare each one, we put the name there and that. And it's basically, the idea is to try to fill this in partially or wholly as the year goes by. So slowly we're collecting a little bit of information about our classes. Look, I can show you it in glorious lemon as well. I mean, you could use coloured paper and colour code it for each class, but you can see there's no expense being spared on these videos. Now, I've used this and it's been terribly useful. I had a class the next year of 14, 15-year-olds, and as we went along, I'd ask them a few things in the lessons, and then afterwards I'd fill in what I remembered on these in these little circles. And doing so, in doing so, I discovered that in one class, a student called Javier, actually he was a BMX fan and he played the oboe that I would have had no idea about if I hadn't asked them about their hobbies. And Alberto in the same class, he kept canaries. He had a small aviary. And I found out that Maria had family in the Canary Islands. And about 3 of the students, they liked horses. So I knew that any time that I chose horses or anything connected to horses for a reading article, for example, I immediately had 3 of the students in the class quite engaged. So I'm not saying that in order to know your students, you need to, be living in their pockets emotionally. And I'm not saying that you need to collect, complicated, in-depth information about them that might contravene some sort of data protection act or anything like that. This is just, and here it is again in green, this is just a few bits of information that you might want to pick up as you go through to guarantee a sort of minimum level of engagement with your students, so that you come out, as the year goes on, you find out something about them. As a data collection tool, it's not very efficient. I mean, if one of my diploma teachers came up with this as a observation template, for example, for observed classes, I'd say it was extremely inefficient in terms of space. So you can redesign this if you do so wish. What I'll do is I'll make it available to you in PDF and in Word format, so you can modify it, or you can just take the headings off if you want. So there is an email attached to this channel. It's teachingteenagersenglish@gmail.com. It'll be under the clip. If you send me an email, and if you are a subscriber to this channel, I shall send you both formats, this form in both formats, so you can play about with it. If anybody asks you what you're doing, if they come across your wad of templates and what is all this, well, by all means, show them this video, which should explain it all. What else? I think that's about it, really. There are other approaches you can do to get to know your students. One is, for example, to take some of these themes and just pick one a lesson and ask them about it. I mean, what I often do these days, is I'll just go in, and if I'm teaching in an after-school academy, I'll say, guys, so which school do you go to? And I'll ask each of them. I'll take a few notes. I may collect or save the notes. I may not. I'm not a particularly organised person, which means that in 2 or 3 months I might have forgotten. Problem? No problem. In 2 or 3 months I just say to them, hey guys, I've forgotten which schools you go to. Can you just remind me? And we'll pick up there. So, you can tread the same ground, and obviously as you're doing so, you're peppering the class with extra language, you're giving them, upgrades to the sentences that they're making, and you're boarding certain language to make it common property for everybody. So I think that's about all I have to say there, and I hope that comes in useful to you. All the very best with your teaching, strength and energy.